Hello everyone, welcome to the Africa Media Platform. I'm Obi Malope, an optometrist based here in South Africa, and that's where we are today. I'm sitting next to a young dynamic leader, one of the future eye care leaders of our amazing industry, Deon Hattingh. How are you today?
I'm very well, and you?
Very well, very well, very well. For in case you don't know, Africa Media is the biggest media platform for all things eye care on the African continent. Part of the things that we do is to connect one another as optometrists, ophthalmologists, eyewear consultants, optical dispensers, irrespective of the area of focus of interest that you have in the eye care industry. We use this platform to share our stories, learn from one another, inspire one another, so that we can elevate and take the optometry industry or the eye care industry as a whole on the African continent to the highest possible level of excellence. And so today, it's such a privilege and an honor to be able to be sitting next to you, Deon, because your story, when you told me about your story in terms of how your journey into eye care started and where you are today, I was like, no way, we have to make sure that people in Morocco, people in Ghana, people in Namibia, South Africa get to know how you have ended up in optometry, because I'm fully convinced that just as I was inspired, they too will be inspired.
Yeah.
So let's forget about the camera. Let's have a conversation. Who are you? How did you get into eye care? Where are you from? Yeah, man, love to know about your journey.
So my name is Deon, as you said. So I come from a small town in Ellisras,
Okay.
or it's now called Lepalale, in Limpopo. So very hot, very small. So after school I didn't really know what I wanted to study,
Okay.
because I did a lot of I wanted to be a lot of things, but I never wanted to be a dancer or an actor or something like that. But I don't think I was really brave enough to pursue it, because acting is a thing like people who are actors and things like, they're very brave because they live from job to job, and it's something I don't think I was too scared to pursue. And I loved school and did very well at school. So I started working just to keep myself busy. But
This is after high school.
After high school,
Okay.
I started working. So I started working at the video store.
Wow.
So I was the manager of the video store in our town. And then I moved on to work at Vodacom.
Okay.
And then I worked it for a while, but that was quite miserable, not because of Vodacom, or should I rather say cell phone shop, because I was very good at school.
Okay.
And I felt miserable because every time I would see in Facebook or something like that where my fellow students from high school was moving into their hostel, or at that point I think it was already, some of them were already getting their degrees.
Wow.
And I was getting quite miserable because I didn't have the opportunity, the means, the funds, or
Sure.
anything to go to university, even though I wanted to. But I didn't know what I wanted to study.
At the same time, yeah.
So things at the cell phone shop went really bad for a few months, and I just then quit.
Wow.
I quit because I just couldn't keep on going because of the treatment I received at this store.
Totally understand, yeah.
Yeah, and then I was unemployed for 6 days. And then my mom phoned me and she said that they are looking for someone at the optometrist at the mall.
Okay.
And I was like, but you have to go now because the boss is there today and they want to interview you today.
At the time, did you know what optometry was?
I knew what optometry was. I wore glasses as a child.
Okay.
But I had no interest in it whatsoever.
Oh.
And I was like, at the optometrist, oh God, I'm gonna be so bored. I'm gonna be answering the phone and make appointments. I'm like, oh, that sounds horrible. But a job is a job, so we can't say no to a job, you know. And then I went for the interview. I immediately got the job.
Wow.
And as a frontliner,
Okay.
and dentist clerk, so
Wow.
which I've never done before. So
And this was at the practice based at the mall.
in Lepalale,
Okay.
the Lepalale Mall.
Okay.
And then I was so I started working there, and it was only when the boss came, the owner of the practice. Her name is Serena Premier. I don't know if she would mind.
Hopefully, this is an inspiring story that you're sharing. So hopefully, she's okay with it. But we'll check with her.
Yeah.
I
So
guess it's too late now.
but
It's all good.
my boss is Serena Premier. She was like, she then came there and she took me for training in her Middelburg branch.
Okay.
In Mpumalanga, and I just immediately fell in love with the way she treated the patients and everything. Everything was just so interesting, and I love the lenses, the different kinds of lenses, the dispensing. They immediately taught me how to repair frames, and I absolutely loved it. I loved repairing the frames. I loved. So they taught me everything about frontline dispensing, sales.
So your perception of what you're going to be doing
was
got to be changed completely after
over.
you got your training.
Yes, because and then the way the owner from in the Middelburg branch just handled her patients was just so beautiful to me, and she was so. And I was like, this is helping people, and that's who I am. I love helping people. I love engaging with people. I love being with people. I'm a very, very extroverted, so I love being around people. I love being with people.
You just said something very, very powerful, and I think for everyone who's watching, you said you loved the way she was helping people. It's as if you got that from the onset, that what we do as optometrists, it's helping people. We literally change people's lives. So I like that you got that from very, very early on in the eye care industry.
And I was very grateful for her and the opportunity, because what I also learned was a lot of problem solving skills, because no matter if a patient walks into the door, they will go out of their way to solve the problem. If the glasses were broken, or their contact lenses were on back order or something, they would try to come up with a solution with the patient. They would never give up in trying to help the patient. So that was really wonderful.
How long did you work in this particular practice as a frontliner? Because obviously from where you started, then you got the necessary training, you evolved as a administrative person within the practice, from being trained with spectacle lenses, spectacle frames, sales, admin and all of that. How long were you in that particular practice?
So in this particular practice, I was a little over a year, but then she sold the Lepalale branch, and she sold it to another guy, which at first I was devastated, because she's just the most wonderful human being and boss. She just treats her employees so well. And then, I was actually grateful for the change, because there was more a permanent optometrist rather than a locum optometrist there, and because he bought the practice. And I learned so much from him, and was so inspired by him in the way that he was just so particular and so very accurate and very good at his job. I mean, sometimes he would measure a seg height, and then the Hoya log or whatever would not recognize. He said, you can't put in a 0.3 seg height. You can't do that. And then it has to be 0.5. And he was like, okay. So that was wonderful, and so I immediately I started researching and looking what does it take to become an optometrist, and it seems like my maths were not good enough.
Okay.
So everything was good enough. I had a lot of distinctions. My biology, my science, physics was excellent, but my maths
No, it's not at the level that it
was a level it should be. And then the next year, that was already before the practice was sold. I enrolled at college to redo my matric maths.
Wow.
And
that speaks to the commitment that you had in terms of you understood then that there's a sacrifice that will be required from you in being able to pursue anything that you would be interested in. So kudos to you then for identifying that, okay, this is what I will need, this is what I'm lacking, but let me go and actually sort it out. Kudos to you, man.
Yeah, thank you. And the thing is also I'm not really good with examinations.
Same here.
So at the point I didn't improve much with my mathematics. So I contacted the university. I said, listen here, I redid my mathematics, but I don't want to waste another year because you have to go through the whole year. Even though it's just one subject, you have to go through the whole year. I said, I can maybe enroll at the FET college and do N4 maths. And they were like, okay, you can do that, but then you have to get 80%.
Wow.
Okay, for the N4 maths, which is just a 3 months. It's not even 3 months, but it takes 3 months to complete. So I did that. I wrote that exam 4 times.
Wow.
3 or 4 times because of all the admin problems, that we experience. Because the test leaked. And there was delays in the marking and things like that. So I actually I wrote the re-examination just in case when my marks are released.
You don't have any problems, 100%.
So when my marks was released, I got 89%. So and then I enrolled. I actually applied 2 times before I got accepted.
To optometry school? To
optometry school.
Wow, and that was optometry school in Johannesburg?
In UJ. I wanted to go to UJ. There was no other university in my mind. But because, and also I've always wanted to live in the city, always.
Wow.
I'm not a
You're from a small town, but you're not a small town person.
I'm not a small town boy. I'm a city boy. I love the busyness and things. And then, but I just kept on going, even though I was just so frustrated. I haven't even received the marks for the re-examination. I think that also got lost somewhere. But and then there was, I waited for so long, and after the second time I've applied, and I phoned the optometry department and said, listen here, when am I going to get a no? Am I accepted? Am I not accepted? Because at this point I was already very miserable because I was like, I'm 24 and my life is going nowhere. I just feel like I have so much potential.
And this is the opportunity that you've identified that can change your life, basically.
Yes, and if it's not going to work out, I need to find other avenues. But at this point, that's all I want.
You want this.
Even I wrote them a motivation letter because they always ask you to write option number 2 for what you want to study.
Option number 2. This was your option.
That's what I said to them. It's like, I didn't fill in an option number 2 because I know exactly what I want to study, and that's optometry, nothing else. There's no option 2. There's no option 2. And then, the receptionist the admin, I don't know, the PA of the HOD, she then said, because I think at this point I was annoying her because I was very persistent. I constantly emailed her or talked about what I need to do and things. She was very helpful. So hi Emil, thank you for your help. She was very helpful. And then she said she's gonna check. Then she phoned me back and she said, you are provisionally accepted or conditionally accepted, same meaning. I was like, what conditions? I probably sound very annoyed. I hope I was not rude. But I was like, what conditions? I contacted the math department. They said, if I get 80%, you'll, for my N4 mathematics, you use it as a substitute.
You did your part.
I got 89%. So what is the conditions? What more conditions do I need to meet? And then she said, listen here, I can hear you have passion. I'm going to call the enrollment department And then she called the enrollment department, and the enrollment department called me back and they said, we've changed your status from conditionally accepted or provisionally accepted to 100% accepted.
Wow.
So at this point,
Wow.
I was in public, and I fell on my knees and I started to cry.
Wow, man.
And I was shivering, and the lady was telling me, write down my number, because if you don't get your acceptance letter by tonight, I want you to call me.
Wow.
And then she said, give the phone to someone else, because I don't want you to write it
the
down
wrong number.
because I was
In that moment,
shivering.
you are filled with so much joy and excitement.
So excited, because the day before I felt like my life was going nowhere, and then the next day finally my dream came true.
Wow.
And then so funding wise, I just didn't know where I was going to get funding, because but I just took a leap of faith, and then I quit my job.
Wow, man.
At the Optometrist. And then 5 days before I moved to Johannesburg, I got a message from NSFAS.
Wow.
That my funding was approved.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So, and once again I was crying, stuff like that.
I'm loving this.
So thank you, taxpayers. But now
So the system works.
the system, well, but
for the people who are sitting in other countries who don't know what NSFAS is, you explain.
well,
In terms of how the payment stuff works from NSFAS, just to give a short explanation for the people that are watching that what's NSFAS.
So NSFAS was initially a student loan from the government, which was interest free for people who are from a lower bracket of income. But when I actually went to university, it changed from a loan to a grant because of this whole protest movement of free education. And then, so I was very grateful for that. And so it's now a grant, so I don't have to pay anything back. It was a loan when I got it. It was a loan, but it was changed to a grant. I think it was on Valentine's Day actually. It was changed to a grant. So actually I would have been happy to pay it back. And sometimes I feel guilty because, my fellow students who were not in a lower bracket income have to pay from their own pockets, or or the non-South African students had to sometimes had to even work extra jobs or whatever to pay their fees off.
Wow. Congratulations that you now finally got to be in optometry school.
Yeah.
So what was those emotions that you're going through that first year? Because now you have been working different jobs and then eventually working in an optometry setup, and now you are a full-time student now. How did that process go about for you?
It was quite weird at first. It was just like I was a full-time working since I was out of school.
For sure.
And suddenly I was just a student. I was really stressful because I haven't studied besides the maths.
You haven't been in an environment where you're constantly having to study anything.
Yeah, I was really stressed about chemistry because I was good at chemistry in school, but
it's been some time
it's been
past.
7 years since I was in high school, so it was really scary. First year was actually more scary to me than all the other years. All the other years were more difficult, but because a lot of the subjects were optometry related, I felt like I can do them. But the chemistry, the physics, and things like that were a little bit daunting to me.
When did you settle in? When did that change then? When you're navigating between always working to now being a full-time student, when did you make that permanent switch in your mind and you settled now, you're going in this thing and you're a full student and you have forgotten about your employment days, if I can put it that way?
Oh, I don't know, because I I still got a part-time job to pay for my equipment.
Wow.
Because so I still worked on weekends.
Wow.
But it was only later that year.
Wow, I like that attitude. Because I also worked for my first year optometry school. I like that approach. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was no choice in the matter. I guess because no one else was going to pay for my equipment, and NSFAS do not pay for equipment. So, but you can maybe use your book grant. You get a book grant.
We all know optometry is an expensive. The books themselves are so expensive.
Of course.
So let alone the equipment. So
I think you can buy a lens with it. I think so. But yeah, no, I continue to. But it was. But I was immediately. I was very motivated, and I just studied the whole time.
How did you deal with now? You're one of the older students in the class.
Well, I was quite nervous about that because I'm more inclined to be more relatable with people actually older than me, just because of interests, because I like things that more the older generations like.
Okay.
I like old music from the...
So did you struggle then, or?
No,
Because you're an outgoing person, was it easy then to make connections and friendships within your classmates?
From day one.
Okay.
I was scared about it, but from day one, because I was so excited. I think everyone thought I was crazy. I was like when it was orientation, was like I went around the row and asked everyone what inspired you to become an optometrist.
I like that.
So and everyone thought I was a fourth year because I was introducing myself. I'm Deon, I'm an optometry student. You're an optometry student too. I was just as much as I could say it as possible, just because it just didn't feel real.
Wow.
Because I was I'm an optometry student, and now that I'm actually registered with the HPCSA, and I can tell the patient listen, I'm an optometrist. It still feels like I'm dreaming. It's just
wow.
And everyone's like. And I still love it. Everyone is.
I see that.
I've been in optometry for 7 years now, including work and study, because I worked 3.5 years as a frontliner, and then I've been studying for 4 years. And so I just, because the thing about optometry is the more you learn, and the more interesting it gets. It's just, I don't think there's anything more wonderful.
When did you qualify?
January.
Like now?
Yeah, January.
One thing that I've noticed from you from the time you were still studying was the look.
Oh, yeah.
The look is what stood out for me immediately when I got an opportunity to visit the optometry department at UJ. And have you always had this look? When did you think about it from a brand point of view? And this is now your look, because you're owning it now. I think it's such a statement. Everywhere you go,
it's the man in the bow tie.
It's the man in the bow tie.
Well, that's the thing. I think just because what I love about a bow tie is that it can take any boring outfit and just make it joyful and flamboyant, and that's what I love.
Wow.
And because the part-time job, we wore this very, very boring grey shirt, and I was like, I had to wear bow ties. And I've been wearing bow ties since I was able to own my own salary and buy bow ties. But I didn't wear them all the time. But now I feel naked without a bow tie.
Do you have an optometry bow tie?
I want one. I've been looking for fabric and stuff like that.
So that you can make optometry bow ties.
Optometry bow tie with all glasses on and everything.
Wow.
But yeah, just for me, I think where it becomes something that it's for me more important to wear my bow ties so that people can remember me. Because you might not remember my name, because people don't remember your name. But when they come into the store, it's like, I would like an appointment. I can't remember that guy's name.
But the bow tie,
the bow tie, you know.
Now, let's go deeper in that conversation, because obviously, young people now who are entering the eye care landscape need to make their mark, establish themselves. They're entering an industry post-COVID, where so much has changed, so much has been impacted within the industry, and you guys now have to make a mark for yourselves. Your areas of interest on a clinical point of view then What are your areas of interest?
Well, pediatrics, binocular vision, visual therapy. I would love to do hard lenses, but but that's something I'm going to develop in this practice I'm now. So anything, I'm open to low vision, but it's not something I would advertise because it's very sad. It's sad and difficult for me, but I want to do everything that all other optometrists don't want to do.
I like that. So that's where you as a young person and when I say young person, I'm talking about young within the industry, that you have identified that will be an area where you will establish yourself beyond the bow tie.
Beyond the bow tie.
And where you can see that from a clinical point of view, this is where I'll make a difference to people, to patients, and so forth.
And I've always loved children, and I think I have a natural rapport with children, which I think helps me.
It's on that, I mean, just before we started this interview, I actually got to see you in action with a child. Right at the beginning of this interview, you mentioned how your former boss, when you were still a frontliner at the practice in Lepalale, one thing that stood out about her was her approach to patient care. So I can see that you sort of like resembling that approach, because that young boy that you were helping just now, he didn't want to leave. It's as if he wanted to be here and continue his session with you. How does that make you feel, knowing the difference that you are making to a young child who came in here not being able to see well, and now they're in a position that they're getting their vision better, improved, and so forth?
Improving their ocular motor function. I think it feels wonderful, and I'm very privileged to have this job that I've got now, because at the previous practices I worked at, I was not able to develop the visual therapy, because it's not something that a lot of practices are capable of having in their practice.
Absolutely.
So it feels wonderful. I think because I want to be an active part of my patient development. And I think where for me that I don't want my relationship with the patient to stop when they go out my testing room.
Wow.
Because in many practices that is the case.
Wow.
And not in all practices, of course. There's still a lot of practices which, like the one I work for, where they have a very good relationship with the patient. And for me, it's just like I can't solve all the problems, but I can at least try what is within my capabilities as an optometrist. And for me, who has studied at UJ and had wonderful training, I think I'm very privileged to the wonderful lecturers that I had.
For sure.
And I want to utilize every single thing I've learned, and not throw away anything I've learned, and even build on that what I've already learned. And I think for me, I love active visual therapy because of science, because of the studies have shown that active visual therapy are more successful than passive therapy. And this is not necessarily because passive therapy is not effective, it's because of compliance issues. And you see here at this practice, parents don't mind bringing their child
over and over again.
Once a week, twice. There's even some child I see twice a week, and they come because they don't mind if I'm willing to put in the work to help their children.
So that's something that you show the parents from the onset. And do you have detailed patient discussions with them? That's number one. Do you like literally sit down with the patient and the parents to literally explain to them the journey that's going to be involved? And what are some of the things that you are doing to establish that trust relationship with the parents then? Because it's easy to establish trust with a child because of your personality. I can imagine that it can come natural because you love people. But what are some of the things that you would say you do as Deon to connect with parents? Because you need the buy-in of the parents to commit to the treatment regimen that you're going to be prescribing for that particular child.
I think honesty is the most important.
Okay, I love that. I love that.
You must be honest with your patient about what you do know and what you do not know.
I love that.
So for me, and that gives trust to the patient, where you say, maybe I want to do a follow-up appointment because I don't know about whether I'm going to give the glasses or not.
Wow.
Because, and also, for example, if the one child doesn't need glasses, you're honest about that. And, but then they will trust you when you tell them your other child needs maybe glasses and visual therapy, or maybe just visual therapy.
Wow. Wow.
So I think honesty is very important when you say,
that.
I don't know, because you're allowed not to know. But I am willing to go further and investigate further to find a solution to whatever your child is complaining about, whether it's headaches or trouble reading, trouble with schoolwork, etc. And I also think it's also a multidisciplinary practice. It's not to be afraid to refer. I think to whether it's ophthalmologist, occupational therapist, or even another optometrist.
So you know your scope and you know what your limits are and what you can do within what you are capable of.
But I think the patient comes first. It's not you. It's not. It's the patient comes first, and I think they see that. And also, I think what I try to differ myself in my tasting room from any other optometrist or out there, because I constantly hear like, I've never had such a thorough eye test before. And
wow.
So, and I'm like, for me, I always feel like I'm not doing enough.
Sure.
And then when patients say that, I'm like, where have you been going? Because I feel like I'm not doing enough. And I think also I have a lot of patience. I don't think my life partner would agree with that, but I think in my tasting room, I have a lot of patience, and I don't care if the patient asks me 100 times to show them whether the lens. I don't care. I have a lot of patience, and I think that's important.
So you found what differentiates you and what gives you that extra X factor when you're helping your patients.
But I think it's also because of my history, because of I came into optometry worked with a lot of optometrists, and I think I've taken the pieces of all of them.
Wow.
And especially the first one, the first boss I worked for, I took a lot of her in me because I can see how absolutely amazed and wow the patients were about how they treated her, and they always return, and I think that's important. And it's not because she ran a special. It's not because she gave glasses for free, like a sunglass pair for free. It's because of who she is and how good of an optometrist she is, and how much she cares about the patient.
I love that.
And also, you can because of also I try to always tell the frontliners that listen, like I'm an optometrist, but we work in a symbiotic relationship. I don't ever want you to feel like ever rude or degrading towards you. Please grade me. Because I never ever want, because we need each other. I need the frontliners just as much as the frontliner needs me.
I love that.
And I was a frontliner, and I can.
So you know exactly what they experience out there.
Especially when an optometrist do not treat them well, because some optometrists, and I'm talking about locums that I've worked with, have not all of them. I'm not talking about all of you, but some of them have really made you feel inferior. And I think that's never something you should do. And I think what my first boss did was that she created such a beautiful work environment that everyone wanted to be at work.
Wow.
And I think the patients could feel that. So I think it's a holistic, it's as a whole, because the patients, patients will also come because of the service they receive from the front line.
What you just highlighted is so powerful, and it speaks to you could be running your practice for the last 5 years. What Deon has just shared is actually so pivotal to all of us in the industry, that in order for us to be able to give quality patient care to our patients, we need to be competent enough to do so. We need to care, we need to love the job, we need to be passionate about what we're doing. But over and above that, we need to remember that we don't work in isolation. We have to include our team and make sure that they are part of the process that ensures that patient care. And remember to lift other people up as you rise, because that's what you are highlighting with your first boss. That as much as she was this brand and building up an amazing practice, she was inclusive of making sure that the team is operating at the level at which she is. And so as a business owner, as a young optometrist in a particular practice, remember that the people around you, you grow and you help them grow as well. And you will be able to do far more and achieve far more in the respective practices that you're working in as a result of that teamwork approach. So you actually inspired me by that analogy and that awareness that you had from back then that you are implementing right now.
Yes, it's definitely, because I'm very grateful for my training. Because there's this one optometrist that he was a locum, so he was one of the good ones.
Good comeback there.
Yeah. So he actually owns owns the Specsavers now in Alice Russ. But before then he was locuming at the practice I worked at. And then he would come in and he would take a frame out of the second-hand box, and then he would bend it like crazy, and he was like, and it would be too small even. He was like, but I want you to bend this correctly towards my face. And then he would look in the mirror, I'm not satisfied.
Wow.
And also another optometrist, the first optometrist worked there, he taught me a lot of things. So I took in pieces of all of them.
Wow.
And but mostly I think my first boss was my biggest inspiration. Also, he inspired me to become an optometrist.
Wow, I love
in the
that.
first place.
How do you find the balance between, because you mentioned the flamboyancy that Deon comes with, and I could imagine you love frames, you love style, you love elegance, fashion could be something that I'm assuming that it's very, very important to you. How do you then balance that with patient care, where you know that this is the clinical solutions that you have, or management solutions that you have come up with, but now because you love all the other stuff, how do you introduce them to how you manage a patient, whether it be a child or an elderly patient for that matter?
So I think it's important that because I am a flamboyant individual, I am a fashionable individual, but that's me and not my patient. My patient is an individual and I treat them as an individual. So for me, even though I would never ever wear a boring square silhouette frame or something like that, it will look beautiful on my patient who has a different personality and a different face.
So you individualize the patient care basically.
So yes, and also what I love to do though, actually, it's because sometimes patients don't know what they want, or because they never want glasses, they don't know. But sometimes patients come in with a clear idea what they want, but then I like to say, but try this one for me, please. Model it for me, you know, just for fun, you know. You never know until you try, you know, and then I end up loving it. So I love that, where I can kind of like just say, always say there's 5 different types of patients. The patients who do not know what they want.
Okay.
The patients who do not know what they want. No, they don't know what they want, but they know what they do not want. Okay. Then you get the patients that don't care. I once sold a very pink frame to this guy, but he didn't even look in the mirror. I said, sir, this is pink. He's like,
does it make sense?
It's comfortable. Because he wanted reading glasses, he bought like 5 reading glasses. And he wanted one for the toilet, one for the office, one for the car, everywhere. He didn't care what it looked like. And then you get the patients who are open-minded, and then you get the patients who are very fussy. But I think the most fun is the ones who are open-minded, which you can try. And the ones who do not care, then you as a person can say, you know what, I know it would look beautiful on them. And then that's fine, because I definitely because glasses is something you feel self-conscious about.
Wow.
And I definitely ever want my patient to walk out here without looking beautiful.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
That was amazing points. So the patient who doesn't know what they want, the patient who doesn't know what they want, but also knows what they don't want.
Exactly.
Then there's a patient who doesn't care at all, the open-minded one, and the very fussy one. Those are actually a good summary of how you need to think about your patient.
But once again, patience. You have the fussy patient. You're patient. You smile. You say,
I love that.
you know, I'm here till 6. Take up all my time. It doesn't matter. So, and as long I always say, sometimes the patients apologize. I apologize. You're gonna have to clean all this for you. I say, no. This is my job. I'm here to help you, and it doesn't matter how long you take. Because remember, you want to be happy, and I actually want you to wear the glasses. Because there's some patients who you're not very vocal about what they like or do not like.
Yeah.
And
they end up taking the glasses, but they're not
really
going to wear those glasses once they
don't
leave.
like them.
Yeah.
And they must like them. They must feel good. And I want my patients to receive compliments and say, "You look very dashing," or "You look very beautiful."
I like that.
And I think that's very important. So I can incorporate my fashion sense, but also incorporate that I love to be individual and respected as an individual for who I am and what I am. So therefore, I must respect my patient for the same reason.
That's powerful. As we wrap up, 2 things. You just entered the marketplace. What advice are you giving final year students right now? And what advice are you giving first year students right now?
Well, let's start with first year students.
Okay.
I think what I made a mistake of was that as a student, it's like you look at the whole textbook, the big anatomy textbook, and you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to get through this. And you must not look at the textbook as a whole, but look at it as a stepping stone, or a mountain. Let's say a mountain. Don't look at the peak of the mountain, but look at the next step you need to take. So, which is a sentence. Okay, I need to finish this paragraph. I need to finish this chapter, because it's a step-by-step process. So don't be overwhelmed, because the stress is gonna kill you in the end of the day. Overwhelmed by the big textbook, but
Take
think
it
about
step
by step. It's semester by semester, or term by term, semester by semester.
I like that.
It's not all at once. So it's difficult, but not impossible. You can do it. But it's difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't do it.
I love that.
And then for new students, I think
the qualifying ones.
qualified ones, yeah. I think be confident in who you are, because I think most of the times when I get the job, even before I was an optometrist, it's because when I go into an interview, I'm sure of who I am.
Wow.
And who I am and what I stand for in terms of work ethics is to be working hard and things like that. So that's something that's very clear. And I also think be open-minded about any practice, because it might not be a dream job, but it's your first job. It's not the end of the be all. You just get the experience and be open-minded, and but also set yourself apart from any other interviewer, and do not be lazy to do admin. You tell the boss that, listen here, I'm willing to do admin. I'm willing to do
It will set you apart.
invoicing. I'm willing to do filing. I'm willing to do everything, because remember, practice is a whole. And
it's a multifaceted environment.
When you're not busy, the frontliner is busy, and sometimes we forget that the frontliner has a lot of jobs, follow-up on jobs, debtors, creditors.
So you need to get involved. You need to get involved with those.
Always ask the frontliner. Listen, I don't have patience today. What can I do?
I love that. That was powerful. That was very powerful. Guys, that was another powerful episode here on the Africa Media platform. Deon, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Your story, how you started the story and how you've ended the story, it's like you did it step by step. You literally gave us a breakdown from where your journey started to where it is right now, and you're only 5 months
Yeah.
into working as an optometrist. So I'm
Yeah.
super excited that the future of eye care, the next generation of eye care leaders, if this is the type of leaders that the industry is receiving right now, I'm super excited because I can't wait for us to have a follow-up interview with you in the next few months, the next few years, where we look at the impact that you are having beyond the practice room, because people like you are very inspirational. You're going to do big things in the industry. So don't limit your capacity to the examination room or to this practice only. You're going to do big things, and I think it's going to be big things on a global stage. So I'm super excited for you because your level of wisdom, awareness, and attentiveness to even the smallest of things, which make the biggest of differences, is remarkable. So I wish you all the best, and we should actually play this. I'm going to be going to some of the universities again very soon, so we'll actually play short clips of what you are saying to the students across the different universities, so that they can actually see what it's going to take, what it's going to be required for them to be superstar optometrists and make a difference.
And also, please, when you're in first year, go work for an optometrist.
Powerful.
So you can get an idea what optometry is about, because I've seen many cases of people going to fourth year already or third year,
But they've not even been in an optometry
and
practice.
they realize that they don't really like optometry. So please go. Even if you shadow a lot. I shadowed a lot of people. I've shadowed ophthalmologists. I've shadowed optometrists. I emailed so many people that I say, listen here, I am an optometry student. I would like to come shadow you. Or listen here, I'm an optometry student. I would like to come work for you.
I like that.
So that you can get, like I said, different facets of. I adopted different facets of different optometrists, and therefore, but you also must know what optometry is about. The practical and the theory are very different.
Where can people connect with you online?
Online, well, Facebook and Instagram, just Deon Hattingh, my name, Deon Hattingh.
Fantastic. And make sure you connect with iAfrica Media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and connect with us on the different social media platforms. Until the next episode, stay tuned for more.